Did you know that today we are all billionaires technologically compared to the 80s? How? Let's think. It is a bit difficult to calculate the price of a technological product in the early 80s of the last century, compared to its price today. Therefore, the simplest way to calculate it is to count the amount of transistors or vacuum tubes that were in these products in the 80s compared to the amount of transistors in these products today. In the 1980s, cell phones had a maximum of 10,000 transistors and cost $4,000. With today's money considering inflation, it's like $10,000 today. An average price of $1 for each transistor. Today it's about 40 years after that. The price of a cell phone is about $500, which includes 5 billion transistors. So for every dollar of cell phone today, we get 10 million transistors. A simple calculation shows that the cost of the transistor has dropped 10 million times compared to its price 40 years ago. If the price of the transistor had been the same in the last 40 years, a smartphone today would have cost us $5 billion. For a phone call in the 80s, we had to pay for an international call at least $5 per minute in today's money considering inflation. Nowadays, even without arrangements with the phone companies, we pay about 5 cents per minute for an international call. And that does not include arrangements with the phone companies where we commit to the amount of minutes and then pay even less, or calls through apps and computer software that do VoIP voice over IP. So in a regular phone call abroad you pay 99% less than you paid in the 80s for a call abroad. A family that talks abroad for about an hour a day, even without special arrangements with phone companies and without downloading special discounted apps, will pay $100 a month, compared to a family in the 80s who would pay $9,000 a month to call abroad if they wanted to talk an hour a day. In the 1960s, the Encyclopedia Britannica had 32 volumes, about 1,000 pages per volume and over 1,000 words per page, for a total of 44 million words. Cost $1,400, which is like $12,000 today. At the time, the minimum wage was $1.25 per hour. The encyclopedia was bought in installments for several years as a mortgage. It was then considered a real educational asset through which your children will be the educated of the future. The English Wikipedia now has 14 million pages that we will need 14,000 volumes to print, and that is without the images, for which we will need even 20,000 volumes. A simple calculation shows that if Wikipedia is at least 500 times larger than the Encyclopedia Britannica, a printed version of it should have cost between $5 to $10 million today. Here I did not even take into account the storage space of the books. Today you have it all for free with free access from your cell phone or your home computer. Remember the audio cassettes in the 80s that each could store 90 minutes of sound, whether it was music or speech, and cost you about $1, which is about $3 nowadays considering inflation. Or even more so if it is chrome or metal cassettes. Today all music is stored in memory cards. Take for example a 128 GB memory card that costs $20. Can be stored at a capacity of 1 MB per minute, in our case 128,000 minutes, which is over 1,400 cassettes of 90 minutes each, would have cost us over $5,000 in today's money, or $10,000 if we had taken chrome or metal cassettes. It should be noted that music these days is digital and does not lose quality while being recorded further, so it can be compared to the quality of metal cassettes. And if we store speech rather than music, we can compress 4 times more without losing quality. Music compresses to a quality of 128 kilobits per second, and speech can be compressed to a quality of 32 kilobits per second, in both cases almost without losing quality. Remember the film cameras before they were digital? In 1990 a film of 36 pictures cost about $5. The development of the film without printing the pictures cost another $5. The photoshops took about another $10 to print them in a large size, for example 10 by 15 centimeters or 13 by 18 centimeters. So in total, buying a film of 36 photos, developing and printing the photos to put on the album, cost me $20, $40 after calculating inflation, about $1 for each photo I wanted. Each additional copy cost about $0.50 per image. At the time we had to think very well before we took pictures, because we knew that every picture we took in poor quality would cost us $1. These days we take a lot of pictures without thinking, because we just delete any bad picture, nor do we bother to print good pictures, but usually see them through the computer. Instead of printing additional copies to friends and relatives, we simply send them digitally or share these photos on social networks. Telegrams. In the 80s we sent telegrams in extreme cases if we had to announce something very urgent and we were not able to make a phone call, which was also very expensive. We had to pay at the time for every word we send. A word cost at least $3 in today's money, and even more if we were sending abroad. Today we send email, WhatsApp, SMS, etc. I guess an average person sends at least 100 words a day digitally when it comes to personal messages rather than chain messages and jokes. If we had to send these words in telegrams, we would pay at least $300 every day, $10,000 a month, and also had to wait several hours until the recipient would receive the message from us.